Well, hello there, I'm Détroit. Before I forget to ask you, you should leave a comment with questions you want me to answer. And if you don't, I'll have to answer questions you didn't ask, which probably won't leave you with as many good answers. And subscribe. As you can see, today I'm drawing in my new Moleskine sketchbook, which is not so new anymore. I'm using a Pilot fineliner. It's a cheap pen you can find anywhere. I think a pack of 3 is about €2. I'm not sure about the exact price. To be honest, I took this one and a few others from my lab supplies. Anyway, it's a good pen. It feels really nice to draw with. It has a fine tip that allows you some precise lines, for cross-hatching for example. But for a cheap pen, the ink flows quite nicely and has a good darkness to it. Not as good as Rotring ink or the cross-brand ink I use in my fountain pen, but for the price, it's amazing. I am drawing shapes in the middle of a void in space. I couldn't give you a better definition of it. You know, I have a folder on my computer called Drawing Videos in which I put the footage, the scripts, the editing, etc. for every video. Well, for this one, the subfolder is named Space Thingy. That's how much I know what I'm drawing today. I just wanted to make a nice landscape frame taking over 2 pages. Usually I only draw on 1 page, and if I turn the book landscape, it's on 1 page as well. Today I want something bigger. I want to fill the void. It's very much what drawing is, isn't it? It's adding things. It's a creative process, in the sense of not destructive, I mean. The universe is mostly void. I think it's no surprise to anyone. Space is mostly empty. The space between galaxies is even more voidy. Even on a smaller scale, atoms are basically empty. There's a tiny nucleus and a tinier still electron. And so we all exist in the middle of the void, and we are made of void as well. I think if the universe must need a creator, which I don't personally believe in, I imagine the creator as being a painter. You know, in Tolkien's Silmarillion, Eru Ilúvatar, the creator, makes the universe by singing, filling the void with the Ainulindale. If I were to write a masterpiece like Tolkien did, my creator would paint the world instead of singing it. I diverge here. Let me get back to this fine drawing. I wanted to blur the lines between what already exists and what is made, I think. I actually drew that weeks ago and now I'm trying to make sense out of it to write the script. So blurring the line between what exists and what's made. I wanted to add simple 3D shapes, like fundamental building blocks like spheres, cubes and pyramids. Added to that, snaky shapes with no defined looks. But all of these are very basic shapes. I want to complexify that a bit. So the main snake shape in the very middle, I'm actually adding straight lines on it, joining big cylinders. It now looks like a pipe, with more smaller pipes on it. So now we have a shape that is obviously not basic like the others. It's like a man-made shape in the middle of nature and natural shapes. That is the contrast I want to provide with this picture. Or maybe it's not a pipe, maybe instead it's some sort of spaceship. I can imagine it snaking through space, being inhabited, maybe not by people from Earth, but by what we call aliens. Having this more defined thing in the middle also somewhat helps with the scale of the whole picture, I think. Even though we don't know what it is exactly, in comparison with the other shapes that are behind, the other shapes become massively large. Probably it's also because of the spheres. In the context of space, big spheres already make us think of stars or planets, so the word big is already in our mind. You know, I realize I've been talking about space this whole time, but for you, I haven't even filled the background in black. I wanted to make it black since before I started drawing it, but the more I drew, the more it made sense as well. The smudging level on this drawing is insane. Let me explain. As you've seen, I started this drawing with my drawing glove on. I take it off at some point, but in the beginning I had it. This glove isn't specifically for drawing with ink, but it's how I use it. It's a glove I got for my previous digital tablets, but the more recent XP pen I use came with 2 gloves that are thinner and more comfortable, so I decided to use this one for my sketchbook, or paper medium in general. I have to say, 9 times out of 10, this glove is very good at stopping my stupid hands from smudging the drawing. But recently, it's been so hot outside that my hands are actually quite sweaty, and the sweat seeps through the glove and makes the ink run. So, to go back to the black background for this drawing, it also helps to hide the smudging. I will also clean the drawing a bit in Photoshop before the end of this video, just to show you what it looks like in uniform lighting. with less smudges and darker black. Recently, I haven't done that as much, cleaning the drawing in Photoshop. I don't particularly enjoy doing it, and you lose the feel of traditional when you do this, but sometimes it's necessary. I'm a bit sad though, because I have to rest my hand on a piece of paper for the rest of the drawing, but I don't like to do that. It's the heat that makes me sad. Ah well, what can I do? This drawing was mostly complete, but I felt like it was lacking a thing or two. You see, the very basic hatching shading I did on all the shapes is very oriented. It gives us the position of the one light illuminating the scene, more or less. It's in the center, as you could have imagined. I want to focus more of the attention on this point, and for that I am making another layer of blobby shapes behind the rest. These shapes I will fill with straight lines going from this point. Somehow, in my mind, I imagine this part of the scene as being behind the rest. Behind the void, as if they were tears in the very fabric of space itself. This is what lies behind space, not beyond, behind. Maybe that's even where the other shapes come from. Imagine that 1 second before this scene was captured, this was a normal part of space, with nothing but darkness and the distant stars. And suddenly, space rips open and all of these come out. To emphasize that, I even have objects literally coming out of the canvas on the sides, as if they couldn't be contained. You know, it's a good exercise to comment a drawing like this. I even managed to convince myself that all of these explanations were going through my head as I drew it, even though I know perfectly well that it isn't the case and I came up with that in the last couple of hours. And now it's your time to come up with things. Like the video and ask me questions in the comments for a future Q&A video. You can also leave interesting drawing prompts in there and maybe I'll make a video out of them. Subscribe to see a new ink drawing every Thursday and a digital piece every Sunday. If you can't wait, head over to my Instagram at d3_sd or my Twitter at d3 to see all my stuff and chat with me. I'm d3 and I'll see you soon. Bye!